Birthday crowns have become a family tradition in my house, or at least I've been trying to make them a family tradition by making everyone wear them. They're so fun and offer a lot of artistic freedom. Here's how I do them. This is my pattern piece. The whole thing is 10.5 inches long and 4 inches tall, and this will fit a 2 or 3-year-old. You could also just measure the head you're making it for, divide that in half, and then add a 1/2 inch, and that's your length. I calculated to get these equidistant heights, but you could just make up some shapes and roll with it. With my fabric folded in half and my half point aligned with the fold, I trace my pattern piece. I'm not cutting out my pattern completely at this point though, I'm just cutting off the bottom and tracing the top. Then I flip the pattern piece so it lines up with the traced line and cut the bottom again, which is now at the top. I open that up and then cut out a piece of interfacing that is approximately the same. These points are kind of annoying to cut, and doing it this way means that I have to cut once through the interface fabric instead of having to cut the regular fabric and then cut the interfacing separately. I'm tracing my pattern piece again, and at this point you could go ahead and cut it out and skip ahead, but I decided to attempt some embroidery. This birthday boy is a sports fan, so we're going to embellish the standard crown just a little bit. Now, I am not a seasoned embroiderer. Any seasoned embroiderer watching this right now knows that. I forgot to put the hoop on originally, which at least reaffirmed that a hoop is super helpful. I just wish I could say I hadn't already learned that lesson in past projects. I did what I believe is a satin or fill stitch, which is just lines up and down. To avoid having all those lines in the back of the fabric though, I skipped about a stitch width between every stitch and then came back to fill those in afterwards, so I was only traveling that short little gap as opposed to all the way down the other end of the ball. Even so, I know this is probably not a long-lasting basketball. We're just having fun here, okay? You see my football and my geometrically questionable soccer ball. We're calling this impressionist embroidery, and with that spin, I love it. I told you the cutting out part would be kind of annoying. I love my rotary cutter, so I start with that, but don't go all the way down to the corners for fear of cutting too far. And then I go back with a pair of scissors and basically cut every downward and upward point. Now I've got both my pieces, I just kind of clean them up and make sure that they're the same. To assemble, I start by sewing the ends together of the main piece and then the ends together of the lining piece. I then attach those two together along the points with 1/8 inch seam allowance. And then I trim the seam allowance and create little slits at the valleys. I've finished these in a number of different ways, including some burrito right sides together sewing, carefully folding in the raw edges, and keeping the raw edges frayed. But here I decided to use bias tape, which I sewed along just the main fabric right sides facing. When I sew any kind of binding, I usually don't try to pre-calculate the length. I just start sewing it on, leaving about 2 inches, maybe a little more at the top unsewn, and then I sew until I'm about 2 inches away from the start of my stitch line, and then I'll mark where the binding meets the seam and sew the two ends of the binding together. Then I'll go back and finish attaching the binding across where I joined it. I press that around and clip it in place and then top stitched.